Welcome everyone to the Co-Creators Convergence Thursday Creator Combos. I'm Noelle Marshall and I'm here with my beloved Bob Warner.
Hi everyone.
And we have two wonderful guests tonight that I'm really excited about sharing the next 90 minutes with. And you all are all in Facebook land. You are more than welcome to join us. And the code is 831-1463-7833. And it's also in the post, the event announcement. So join us if you want to be in this conversation. We'd love to have you. So before we begin and I introduce our guests, I want to play just a very short video and let people know a little bit about the Co-Creators Convergence. So welcome back, everyone. And I'm so excited to introduce our guest, but I still have one more thing to do. We're just going to do a short reading from Prayer in the New Age, a wonderful mini book put out by White Eagle Lodge. White Eagle, probably before even the book, The Quiet Mind, which some of you may remember. So I just want to center us, and I'm just going to begin. Let us lay aside all thought of the material world and seek to make contact with the source of life. O gracious Spirit, all enfolding love, light, and life, we come before thee in humility and tranquility of heart and mind. May nothing in us prevent us from stepping forward into the light. And when sorrow and trouble come, may we willingly surrender to thy love and wisdom, knowing that underneath are thine everlasting arms, for thou art merciful and just and all living. May our hearts be open and minds subdued, waiting to receive the beauty of thy light. So welcome. We have really exciting guests tonight. I'm going to introduce my friend, Isabel Hundt. And Isabel is a pretty amazing creature. She's done so many things. She came here, I believe she was born in East Germany.
Yes.
And migrated here to the United States. And is a very spiritual being. She's very prolific and has written. She's very talented, does theta healing, compassionate coaching. And I think not even 2 years ago, she had a download for a book and that, or for a movie, a film. And we're going to hear about that tonight, a film that she's never made a film before. And before we gathered here tonight, she let me know that it is now racked up 13 awards. So not too shabby for a first-time filmmaker. The film is called The Power of Connection, and I believe you can get it at powerofconnection.net or at her website. And so welcome, Isabel. I'm going to put this in speaker mode now. And you have a guest that you brought.
Yes, I brought my friend Ayelet. We have met a couple weeks ago or already months. I don't even know. Time is just kind of disappearing. And we had some incredible, deep, enlightening conversations. Ayelet is an amazing person. She is from Canada and she used to own her nice 5 acres in the wilderness of Canada, sharing with the bears. And she actually gave everything up to be absolutely location independent. Currently, you are somewhere in Toronto or something, I think, or I don't know if you already moved somewhere else. But you're location independent and you have written 3 incredible books, which I absolutely, absolutely love. Um, we're allowed to say it, right? The titles are Fuck the Bucket List, and they're 3 incredible books. Everyone needs to go and buy them because Ayelet is an incredible writer. The stories and the way she presents them is just truly, it gave me chills. It's like you're in the story and it's truly amazing. So yes, and tonight we want to talk about community. So who better to ask to join me on this than her, because she has also or is creating and in the still in the beginning stages with her heart pickings community, and we're going to talk later a little bit more about that. And yeah, she's just an incredible friend, and I'm glad to have met her.
And I'm so excited to be here with everybody and to really have a conversation and listen and create together. It's an amazing opportunity here.
I agree. Noelle, do you want us to just direct it on our own, or do you want us to, or is there anything that we should know?
Well, this is a free-flowing conversation,
Okay.
but perhaps we should begin. I know that there are some folks here that would love to see the trailer to your movie. So
Okay.
perhaps we should start with that. And then this is like a free, we want the idea about building communities, which I think is so important to humanity all the time, but especially now.
Yeah.
You two just take it away. And we'd like to make this interactive and participatory. You can invite people in at any time. So we're all ears and want to participate as well. So we're very free flowing.
Perfect. That's absolutely in alignment with me. Before we show the trailer, I want Ayelet to actually show the 3 books, the covers, so everyone can see them because they're really colorful too. And for someone like me who sees everything in color, that is very important.
Well, here are the triplets. I always thought I'd have children. I didn't realize there were going to be books. And I don't know how
everlasting.
to have triplets and hold them because
those are your immortal kids.
It's really challenging. But this was this picture is a photograph I took for my bedroom of where I was living in the Sunshine Coast of British Columbia. And I'm really just the co-author. The real author, if you can see at the bottom there, is the universe. And it took me about 18 months to download these 3 books. And, my work as a futurist as well. I'm excited to be here because there are futurists here in spirit and really helped kind of help us look at where we're headed. And today's conversation about the key currencies for the 21st century, which are trust, relationships, and community, are so important. And we haven't even scratched the surface of what's possible. So I'd love to, I'm just waiting for you to do the trailer and then we could jump right in and hopefully have a wonderful conversation.
We live in a world where communication is instantaneous. Yet, if we look around, there's an epidemic of loneliness, anxiety, even suicide. We pass people every day, never knowing who they really are, and not knowing who cares to know us. The world grows increasingly divided. Instead of caring for each other, we've become afraid of each other. Afraid of being judged, yet afraid of being alone. We've created stories and narratives about people who are not like us, and declare them as truth.
Who does she think she is?
Who is he?
Does she think she is better than me?
Should I worry for my safety?
Is she like all the other racist, white privileged, middle class know-it-alls?
I wonder if he has a record.
She's had all the advantages.
Is he part of a gang?
And she calls the cops. I'm screwed.
If I speak, will he threaten me? I can't.
What if there are more similarities between us than we thought? What if our differences made us more informed, more aware, more connected? What would it take to learn to trust? What are we giving up when we close each other out? Imagine a kinder, safer world. Imagine feeling understood. Imagine the possibilities if we could harness the power of connection.
Okay.
And it is, Isabel, it's such a beautiful film that raises so many important questions. And I think this is a really amazing time to question everything. And I love how you've created this in a way to really spark us. And so I think not only will the awards continue coming, but the ripples of the messages are so key, especially right now. So being able to reach young people as well is so important. And the film itself is a driver of community, of bringing us together to practice ancient technologies. I like to call them ancient technologies, which are conversation and dialogue and listening and questioning and all of it. At the heart of it is connection. So thank you for creating it.
Yeah, or for the universe for creating it and having it come through me. It was really the work of pretty much a decade. If I look back, the entire film has been pieces from different stages in my life to the end where I finally understand what is actually going on and how we're all connected, and that we are not as different as we think we are, or how it's being driven politically and socially. And I think that has been really the foundation of this film, just really going through the story from my own experience, coming from Germany, moving to the US, and just experiencing an entire different world, and the judgments that I always had, how to fit into a community that doesn't feel like it's yours, where everyone is reacting differently than you do or think differently. And I think even for me, I had my judgments coming here because, historical trauma, if you think about it, there's so much historical trauma when it comes to German history. And especially coming from East Germany, we always felt left out because America didn't save us. Well, they went for the West, but they left us to the communists. And even though we really, I was too young to see the actual struggle, but looking back, I know what that meant, how we were never able to leave anywhere, or, it was like a big prison. And then you come to a country where you feel called to come to, and yet you have all those prejudice, all those stories, this trauma inside of you. And, every time people were explaining something and how they're doing it, and I just sat down like, oh my gosh, this is how Americans do it. This is ridiculous. Or, oh, but we Germans, we do it this way, and I think it's better. So it's the self-preservation, of your own identity. If I try to fit in, someone will take away my identity. And then who am I? Who am I supposed to identify with? And it was like a year or 2 years in, I started coaching training, and I had a phenomenal coach at that time as well. And I had really an absolute identity crisis with that. And I said, I don't feel German anymore. I don't feel American. I don't know where I fit in, but I want to fit in, because we all want to feel connected. We all want to feel that love and somehow fit in, not necessarily standing out. Now, even though my sun and moon sign is Leo, so I don't mind standing on stage and getting some of that attention. But I was also quite shy because I used my language often as an excuse. I'm like, oh, I don't understand what you're saying. English is my second language, even though I totally understood. But it was a good excuse to keep me out of discussions, that I didn't want to have. And through this entire identity crisis, I think I really started to understand more and more. And then over the years, of course, and with the film especially, I mean, I have watched it now hundreds of times, obviously. At some point you can't listen to your own voice anymore, or it just feels like some stranger saying it. But through all of that, I really now have come to the point where I realized when something is being taken away, like with COVID, where community suddenly is not the normal anymore. It's not where you can just go and like, oh, I'm going to meet my friends today. Or, some people go to church or whatever they do and no longer can't do that, no longer have that community. And I am at this point in my life where I'm totally okay. Like, I don't feel ever alone. I just sit and meditate and feel so extremely connected. I sit outside and talk to the tree and the plants and the birds and the bunnies that are just jumping out there. Don't get on my tomatoes. And we have 3 baby bunnies in our backyard, so it's kind of fun. But you no longer feel alone. So for me, COVID was actually a phenomenal situation. I know that sounds really harsh, especially for those who have gone through hardship with that. But for me, it was great as a sociologist to really observe how people react, to observe how people respond to it, what is actually truly missing. And I think in a lot of cases, for one, people just took it for granted that they could just go wherever they wanted to go. But it also showed that when it comes down to it, it's about us. When it comes to the point where you are afraid to lose your identity, to lose what you have to give something up for someone else, it becomes all about you. And that's where the division happens. That's where you've watched it yourself, right? I mean, where the fear of, if you take this away from me, if you take that freedom away from me, if you take this away from me, and if you take that away from me, and if you don't do that so that I can do that, like all those conversations on either side, it doesn't matter, but they're all fear driven. And that fear driven is the source of separation. And so instead of us coming together and allowing each other to be, and to just accepting each other and just knowing that we are safe, that no matter what the other person chooses to do, I have the freedom to choose differently, and that is okay, unless you get into that system where it's being pushed on you, where you're being forced, then again, that is also fear driven. But yeah, we literally started to kill ourselves and each other, neighbors coming at each other, and calling the police because they had too many people in the backyards, things like that. But just watching and observing that, for me again was like fascinating. I don't think I can say any different word. It's fascinating.
Well, it's your own experience. So, that's the thing too, is that as you get in touch with yourself and who you are at your core, you get to choose your language, you get to choose your frequencies, and you get to not live in the world of fear or judging or shaming or blaming anymore. And it becomes a conscious choice of how you want to connect with yourself and with other people. And so feeling, and I think also, I mean, I can so relate to you because, you know, if I wanted to, I could have 4 different citizenships, and
Nice. I can't even get two.
and I only have 2 now. At one
I
point,
still haven't gotten two. Germany is making it difficult for me.
yeah, no, Canada, US works, but it's funny because like now that I've become location independent, all the forms required to put, you know, where are you, what's the address, and where, you know, all these things that we feel connected by. And I had a fascinating conversation yesterday with a woman who's working with children, and we talked about how she would love, and her dream, and I know talking to you, it's one of your dreams too, is that children would be able to express themselves from what they love, not from anything else, and what they want to create in the world. And I think having that community, and I think that while many people today were isolated, and it's so interesting because when I was living in a rural area in the middle of the rainforest with the bears and the eagles, and you know, just
I'm
a
a
very
little
small
jealous.
community. Yeah. I left it all behind, but I miss it. It was just interesting. It was a different experience, and I could see like the mental health issues now that I'm in a large concrete jungle. I can see the mental health issues and the issues. And so what I see is huge opportunity, and that's what I'm focused on, because I think in the past we've been in a problem solution kind of mindset, and where we're headed is a heart set that's focused on maybe looking at your challenges, but then also looking at what your biggest opportunities are. And so that's what I think is exciting, because we've talked about it before, Isabel, and you know, my belief is that we're on a timeline split.
Yes, me too.
There are people that want to suffer, and you know, life is hard. And then there's probably 5% of the 8 billion people on the planet that are stepping out of these stories and are powerful creators like you, and probably many people, I'm sure there are many people who are watching or on the call with us who are powerful creators, creating, you know, what's next in the world. And that's where the focus is, and that's where the fun is. And I think that if we started looking at communities as playgrounds, I loved how your trailer shifted from the judgment. It actually captured the timeline shift, right?
Yeah.
It went from like the judgment to the, you know, maybe we have more in common than we ever imagined.
Right. Well, and I think you mentioned it with the timeline shift. Ever since COVID started, I've been saying I feel like I created a parallel universe for myself. A lot of the things that people are talking about doesn't seem to be part of my reality because it never really has been. I have never been attached to any of that, like going shopping. I don't like shopping. I'm very low maintenance when it comes to that. I don't need luxury items. I don't need a huge house. If I'm sitting in an empty room, I feel more free than if it's cluttered. So for me, like I already lived more in alignment with Mother Nature. We have our own garden, so we have food. We just preserved a whole lot of that, and it was just not really part of my reality. My husband is also a naturopath, so of course we knew what supplements to take, and you know, and how to keep ourselves on top of things. And but the biggest shift that came for me through COVID was that I was able to meditate 2 to 3 hours a day that I wasn't able to do before because I didn't allow myself to give me that time, because I felt like I had to hustle, I had to grind, I had to get my business off the ground, I have to do another funnel, I have to do another email sequence, and God knows, and people who know me know that I don't like doing any of that. Yeah, but I did. And I sat there for hours and hours and did this work. And suddenly COVID, and people, I'm like, oh, nobody's working. Well, that's great. I can give myself the permission to sit here 2 to 3 hours of meditating. And as soon as you keep your vibration up, everything changes. Everything looks different. The colors are brighter. Suddenly you look like, was there always a tree? I never seen that here before. But I just posted that the other day. I think you did see that, maybe, I don't know, where I went to the park and I just had this meditation music on, and it was something, I don't know what it was called, like an hour with God or something. It's just meditation music. And I was leaning toward this huge tree, and this message just downloaded right there, where it was like, take a close look, take a close look. You have forgotten how to create. We're not dead. The woods are not dying because the energy of it. There is I think it's a Mexican indigenous, someone mentioned it in our dream weavings group, and it was just so beautiful, where someone was really upset that they had to cut down a tree. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. This is just, I really don't want to do it, but I love to make instrument or whatever he was, carving. And she's like, well, here's the thing. Give the tree that you want to cut down a week, let it know, communicate with it, and then plant a new tree to replace that, so that the spirit, the soul of the tree can now enter into the new tree. And that was so incredible. When she told me that, I was like, oh my, like, this is the reality that we can create. And right now, and I know you're in there too, like 1 foot here, 1 foot on this timeline, you see the vision, you see what is possible, the beauty, communities establishing online, locally, people who are very like-minded and on a similar vibration coming together. And then every now and then you take a peek on what's going on Facebook and potentially the news, and you're like, what are you guys doing? I did not realize that. What? I don't know, I didn't hear about that. But it's like this two different sides of things, and we get to choose where we want to end up on. And I have become so aware in that minute sitting with a tree that so many people, that we can all exist at the same time on the same planet, but in different dimensions, and we wouldn't even know. We wouldn't even know. But it's simply the awareness of what vibration do I choose to operate on, and how I want to experience my life. I am not afraid of death. And if death is part of my story at this point, here and now, my life is not over. My soul is there. You cannot destroy energy, right? I am here for a purpose. Like, this is part of my journey as well as my family's journey. So I'm not even concerned about them. I will fight. Like, I'm a warrior. Like, there's like, if you have double Leo, you hear me roar. But only if I have to. And my first choice is always love. My first choice is always to respond with love, and that's what I'm trying to teach my 7-year-old every single day. And yeah, I'm excited to see where that time split is gonna lead us, and when we're finally no longer stepping in and out of the different ones, but be able to stay in the one that we choose, because the energy of the other vibration, the lower vibration, is becoming less and less pulling, like it loses its strength. When we talk about the earth, and I was reading the Joseph Conversation, and I know Noelle and Bob, they sent me those amazing books. I'm just super grateful for it. And yeah, that's the first one that I've been reading, where he also describes, it's a download by Joseph Michael, what's his last name, Rakia. He had this download from Joseph, where he talks about that we are entering, for whatever reason, our soul chooses to enter into the collective conscious field of this earth. Often it is because it's what's familiar, this is what we know, and we're entering into this conscious field, and we're all operating within this collective consciousness that is based on fear and separation. And within that, we get to experience our journey, and we get to choose the vibration. And so even our thoughts now, having this conversation together, shifts one particle at a time, the collective field, the collective energy of the energy field, the energy of the collective field, there we go. And we can either all come together and choose that as our reality, or again, like you said, we eventually have this time split where there will be people who are choosing to, forever operate on that particular vibration because their body is no longer able to go on a lower vibration, because it's just like when you train yourself, you're training your muscles, and eventually you are not okay with 10-pound weights anymore. You just need to get the 50 pounds, right? And so it's very fascinating. What do you see is possible in terms of how we can create communities?
Well, I love what you shared, because I think what's happening right now is things are starting. I mean, what's happening is the foundation of our house is rotten in the current world. And that's an analogy I like to use. And some people are trying to build another floor or 20 more stories.
Yeah.
And I know you use this analogy too in your work. And so we probably wrote this,
in the film. I know we wrote it all together. It was so fascinating. I mean, we met after we both published our stuff. And then I read through, I'm like, wait, she uses similar language I do. And you the same. I'm like, your film, there's so much that I'm using in my books. And I'm like, that's because it's a universal, it's downloaded by the divine source. And so of course it has similarities interpreted through our own understanding. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. And I take it to the stage that this is the timeline split, that there are people that want to fix the world, make it better, look at a problem, look at a solution, address humanity's biggest problems. And yet the same problems continue, even though we've thrown like trillions of dollars and human life and resources at it. And then there are people saying, enough, let's go really figure out what community is, because we don't know what it is on many levels, and are stepping out of those stories and saying, okay, how do I look at it? But a lot of people right now are feeling really, really alone and not connected. And it is amazing to me. And a lot of people are also blaming technology. And, I used to work in tech in the Silicon Valley for many years, and I fired myself from that. But what it allowed me to do is look at how technology can help create community, like we're on the call right now. And I did a lot of work in Africa and Latin America and Eastern Europe and Russia. And I really got to see firsthand how we can use technology to connect us in dialogue and conversation. Yeah. And so I think we have to have a different kind of awareness about technology, because to me, this is a technology. Somebody imagined how we can get another way to drink water, not from a safe source, yes. But yeah. And so just because we put digital before anything, we've become really, I'm going to be judgmental here, we become really silly, because like if we say online community, people freak out. But if you ask people, have you been part of a community? Everybody's been part of some kind of community, whether it's effective or not is a different issue. And so this whole technology piece, I think, is an opportunity for us to integrate these amazing things that exist, the power of dialogue and conversation, and forget about the fact that it's a technology, but really focus again, what's the mission and what are we trying to do and what are we trying to accomplish? And the sense of belonging, I think, also came out of the deep separation that we have from nature and from each other. And it's an opportunity for us to look at things, because right now, if you look anywhere, trust is at an all-time low. Mm-hmm. But the conversation we're not having is about trusting ourselves, because we
I was going to say that.
Yeah, we learn to trust everyone else before we trust ourselves. And I think we have such an opportunity now, because I'll give you a prediction. I think that by 2027, we will see more of us being in this timeline, that we're able to really be in community, really be in relationships. And it's not that far away, because we're having open conversation of what it means to us. But I know firsthand that we as human beings, we're not really great because of all this conditioning around us, we're not really great at connecting with other people, of being able to have open conversations, of knowing ourselves deeply enough to be able to create something that matters with others. And this is the opportunity to shed a lot of this stuff, to let it go and find out what's your enough, what's enough, and when's enough.
Yeah.
And an ability to question everything. And so, and it's not easy. I mean, but who constructed easy and hard? You know, both of us are on here,
Did.
right?
We
Both
did.
of us are.
That has been, oh my gosh, this has been my biggest lesson over the last year and a half, to allow to create with ease and fun. And it's still such a hassle for me. I like, even just this last year, I started joining, communities where we gift to each other in non-tangible things, in financial things, but also just with, support. And something that I have noticed, especially the ones that don't work out, like I've been able to really just observe and take it in. I'm like, what is it? Why are people struggling to make this work? It's really not that hard to make this work, to just, be in service and support. It's because, especially Western countries, we have been trained to only depend on ourselves. And it usually, like a lot of those communities, even online communities like that, work very well with people from African countries, for example. And you know why? Because they have to rely on each other to survive. And so they come together as a whole saying, we're going to make this work for us, because there's nobody else out there, like government, who is going to come and save our butts and make this work for us. No, we choose to be in community together, to support each other, and the rest will just come. Like some of their mindsets, like there's Ubuntu, and my friend Sabina, she is from, I forgot exactly what country, but she's from Africa as well. And she came here and she wrote a beautiful song called Harambe. And where she says it came from when we worked out on the fields, we were singing the song Harambe, because that means that we're all coming together, we're all helping each other to plow the fields together. And it would never work if someone is not participating into this community work. Everyone has their part, their gift to contribute to this community. And in the end, we share what we harvest. And they make those communities work without it. But the Western communities, they're so focused on me. If I give something into that, I'm expecting something to be coming to me in return. There's always this expectation, the motivation behind it and why we're doing something, instead of just saying, hey, here I am, here's my gifts, and I trust that what is meant for me will come to me. In the meantime, I will use my gift to do something better, to be here to support someone else. And that, even for me, I thought I was kind of there, but once I was in it, I realized how much I was still plugged into the programming of, why don't you move faster? I want to have some money too eventually. I need this too. And I want to receive something too. I'm always the one who never gets, who always gives, But there's also programming and trauma behind that. What do I get out of always giving and not allowing myself to receive?
Well, we've created this concept of giving back. And when I think about
yes,
what did we take that we're giving back? Right? Like, I feel like I need to give something back. Well, what did you take? We've lost the flow of give and take and receiving.
But isn't it interesting how that was created in a very mindful way? Like, we want to give back, but when you really intentionally look at the energy of what that entails, just the words, it's I have to give something to receive something. Or I received something, so I have to give it back, or whatever that is.
So I took something, right? Like when, when you look at what people, put on their bucket lists, and do, they're like, oh, well, when I retire, we also created this world where we retire. I mean, I'm never going to retire. And I want to live a world where
I want to retire from
I
what?
want-
Anyway, from what? I don't have a job.
to volunteer or not. And right now, we don't even know what work means, which is why it's so important to get kids involved in these conversations and these communities and the co-creation as well. And I so relate to what you said, but I have to tell you a personal story that when I was 3 years old, war broke out in my country. And I remember going to the bomb shelter, and I remember, every piece of it. It's my first memory in life. And if the other side would have won the war, we wouldn't be here. You would be here. I wouldn't be here because it was very real. But what I saw at that time was how community came together. What I saw was when there was a commonality there of how people supported each other and how much trust there was and how many relationships there were. And as I kind of am older now and can reflect on it, I can really see, and Noelle mentioned it in the comment as well, is that, we've created a very transactional systems of like even give and take. Like there's a spreadsheet there that you go back and forth from, and it's an opportunity to really look at it at a deeper level, because community comes together in a crisis. When there's a crisis,
We're always waiting for a crisis to come together. Yeah.
And it's that shared piece. And so we can flip it. And, I worked with a very close colleague of mine, Hital Miraj, who's an amazing human being in East Africa. And I learned a lot when she won the Usher New Look Foundation Award for Youth Leadership. And she came back from her first trip in the United States and back and said, I'm not doing enough. So she went to Kibera and brought together a group of youth that we worked together to look at, how do we build community to change their circumstances. And it was amazing because even with technology, I could come on a call, like it would be 5 a.m. in San Francisco, and we would get on video chats and talk and really build community. And so I think that when you talked earlier about COVID and the isolation that we had, it's because we're isolated. Like we've also isolated. If you talk to a young person, they don't distinguish between online and offline. But there's a certain generation you get to where people distinguish between online and offline. And some people will say it's there's a whole backlash of how you use technology, also not for things that are healthy. But when you use it in an integrated way, in a healthy way, there's so many amazing ways that we can connect and find that connection with ourselves and be able to have more conversations that matter.
I have more friends online that I know I can count on if there's something I need, than people that I have locally that I would consider friends who I can count on. And I really noticed for us at this point in time, there's so many people talking about loneliness. I'm lonely, but it's because they have never had to sit with themselves. We have been keeping ourselves so busy, always had to do something, always in survival. We have to have the job, we need to make the money, never really feeling safe. And with that understanding, with that feeling, you have a really hard time to even sit with yourself, because I'll be honest, as soon as I was able to sit with myself, life wasn't boring anymore. Suddenly I went on that journey internally. I'm like, what is all of that? Like, why do I see all those different colors even within myself? And at some point I can even ask Creator to allow me to do a scan within my body. And I saw all those things, and it never really gets boring when you have this understanding. And then even my husband and I were able to telepathically communicate. So even if it wasn't around, we were still able to communicate. Like, it never felt, and we all are capable of doing this. And you know it works because sometimes we think of someone and then they suddenly show up, send us a message, or, you know, call us on our phones or something. But I think right now where we're at, if we don't realize that we're at a very pivot point in life with this society where we either break free or we continue to be slaves of the system. And that only happens if we take a look within. If we understand, oh, this is how I'm responding to this kind of programming. This is how my beliefs are set up, why I can't actually experience true joy and freedom. I have that with so many clients in my work, where it really comes down to the healing work of experiencing freedom and joy, just joy for life, wanting to be alive. Usually when I go through those healing processes with my clients, that's where they just break down, where they start to cry. And suddenly this energy of joy comes over them. And I'm like, I have never in my life experienced joy in such a beautiful way. And it's just incredible for me to observe and to watch, you know. And I think younger people right now are in a huge identity crisis. I mean, we have a friend in common whose son just committed suicide as well, but the way she's handling this is just the most amazing. Her son is actually three days younger than my youngest brother. And I've heard more stories like that where young people just like, I can't live here. I don't know what to do. And you can tell they're jumping back and forth between those different timelines. And nobody ever mentioned that to them, that this might actually be not anything crazy. You're not going crazy. You're not stupid. You're not going, you know, insane. No. You're just going through the process of rediscovering, remembering who you actually are. You're still having this childlike mindset of what life could look like. And at the same time, you have those expectations from society, from politicians, from your parents. And you, like right now, it feels like, especially with the younger people, that they're so drawn to that childlike, but they're not allowed to, because then they're no longer accepted. They're no longer part of this community, because something must be wrong if they accept that. And so I think for us who are aware of this, we need to start opening up our hearts in our places for especially those young people to say, hey, you're not crazy. Come here, let's have those conversations together, why you may experience it that way. Let me explain to you a little bit about meta and quantum physics so that you do understand what's really going on and why you're feeling the way you do, right? Even religion has created such a Kyle in our society, like this huge division. If you don't believe this, then obviously you're against that. And that is really, really difficult. But if we could just be that light in this moment, and even locally or even online, just having those kind of conversations, because who knows who might just jump on this or just see it randomly and say, oh my, I needed that. I needed the confirmation that I'm not going crazy, that we can have what I'm envisioning for the future. Because what we're seeing is that we are birthing more and more children who are extreme visionaries. They're extreme visionaries. They are dreamers. They see opportunity. They're very connected, but most parents take it away from them.
But so are we. Are we. When we unleash ourselves, so are we. We're not any different. I mean,
no, we all have the same capacity.
This is the first time in human history that we have 6 generations on the planet side by side. And it's an opportunity to bring us together. It's an opportunity to listen to young people, to listen to elders, to listen to most people. There's another epidemic that's happening among men who are choosing to leave later in life.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity, again, to bring that trust and those relationships and ability to have open conversations. I mean, the fact that we have to take courses now to learn how to be human, like to
Right.
learn how to be vulnerable, to be how to, it's an opportunity. 5 years ago, I would say, oh my God, it's so sad, but I don't live in a fear-based world anymore because it's a conscious choice. And I look at it and I say, it's an opportunity. Like what you described before, think about it. Before we had the World Wide Web, we had the Wood Wide Web.
Yes, everything is connected. They're all communicating with each other worldwide. I mean, this is just truly beautiful. I was going to say something, I forgot. Darn it. It sounded so good in my head.
Let it out. We're not in a rush. Nature doesn't rush.
We're not in a rush. Well,
It's all
but I
good.
want to go to bed. but yeah, I had it in my head. Like I want to say something to what you were just saying, and I forgot. I don't know. Maybe it will come back to me. But
trees, no. But this is the thing: is like the ability. Like we're doing it right now. The ability to say we're on this call, and we can just be ourselves. We don't have to, think that we have to perform. See, I knew I would get it out of you. There you go.
We were talking about vulnerability, and vulnerability comes when you let go of what you think your identity is, when you attach yourself to every little thing. If it's the house that you have, the car that you have, the family that you have, your parents, your siblings, if anything. I posted something the other day. I guess people didn't quite like it because there was no reaction, but
that doesn't mean anything, by the way.
Oh no, may just been, people got stuck in their thoughts. But if something or someone were to be taken away from you tomorrow, would you be able to be okay with it? If not, if you get to a point where you would be, if it's a thing, you would be fighting, you would be get really upset, really angry. Even if it's a person, you feel like I can't live without them. When you notice those thoughts, when you notice those reactions within yourself, you know that you have made them or that part of your identity. And therefore it has become an ideology. And that's why the Bible talks about don't make anything your idols. Always focus on divine source, on God. And everything else are idols in our life that take us away from the understanding of true oneness with all there is. Of course, I would be sad if something were to happen to my family. I would probably be devastated for some time because I love them. They are mine, especially my little boy, right? But at the same time, I also have lost 4 children, and that is where it became very clear to me I never lost them. I have never lost them. Their souls are still here, and maybe we will meet each other again in a different lifetimes where we're in different constellations together. Maybe I actually think that this is going to be my last lifetime on this earth within this dimension. But I never know. I sat outside and watched the clouds the other day, and suddenly this thought came, like, this is going to be my last reincarnation on to earth. But even then, outside of that, so many dimensions are existing, and the beauty of those dimensions, we never lose each other. We never lose anyone, and we can still communicate through those different dimensions when we are aware. And so I'm not making them part of my identity. My identity is not mom, wife, daughter, friend. I am that I am. I am that I am. Right? And that's all I have to ever explain. Like, well, who are you? I am that I am. That means I am the energy, the vibration of love. This is truly who I am. Everything else you see is ego mind. That is not who I am. That is a lesson for me to learn, a lesson for me to move through this world, and something that I chose to embody in this world. Some mission, some passion that I have chosen to integrate into this physical body. but it's not who I am. And when you get to that point, you can be absolutely vulnerable. I have done close to 300 interviews over the last 3 years. And people always say, is there something that you don't want to talk about? Nah, I don't think there's nothing out there you know, I mean, I'm not going to tell you, oh my gosh, I just went to the bathroom. I mean, I don't have a problem even saying that. You know, but like the deeper stuff, the reflective stuff, it's all out there. There's not really a secret because I'm not attached to any of those stories. They're just stories that I have experienced, but I'm not attached to it. And that is when we create true community, because you're just open and letting other people in.
And that takes practice though. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
Is,
And
you
I'm
know,
slow with learning. Like I think after 2 years with the one of my coaches that I work with in the beginning, I think he got a little bit like, you get it now, like maybe. So some go a little faster,
yeah,
me
and
not so much.
but it's personal, right? Because
Yeah.
again, everything was constructed, everything that we created or inherited. Like, this is why I'm so excited, because while, you know, there are many theories and religions and ideas about who created the sun and the animals and the plants and us, there's not one person you could go to and say, okay, but we know who created education. We know who created taxes. We know who created marriage. We know who created government. I mean, we know all that. And if we're so powerful, why can't we create healthy systems and communities that serve the vast majority of humanity, not the few? And that is the exciting intersection that
Yeah.
humanity is on right now.
You know, a thought that actually came to mind now that I have a 7-year-old who goes to school. I mean, he goes to Montessori school, so he is very free in his learning, right? And he just loves to learn. But I have said to my husband, I'm very hesitant to even teach him history, because we have this understanding, like, it's important to know what happened. It's important to, like, is it? Is it? Is it important? Do we want to relive that? Do we want to bring that back into our historical consciousness? Do we want to bring that energy? Do we want to leave this here? Do we want to, you know, do we really want to reinitiate something that is an illusion anyways?
No, because we like reruns and sequels, I think.
Right,
Sorry.
because it's familiar, because we've probably lived through that lifetime, because we love to have something that we can feel somehow connected to. But I'm really struggling because, of course, the world says, yes, they need to learn history. They need to learn all of that. And I'm just like, oh, what do I do? Do I take something away from him, or do I actually allow him to make his own experiences by not teaching him that?
It's a question to talk to him about and say there's a body of work. You know,
Well, he has the opinion that he's smart, and whatever information he needs, he just downloads it. He doesn't have to learn it. I'm like, good for you. Just stay on the ground a little bit. Like, don't start to. Because sometimes they're like, oh, I already know that. I already know that. I'm like, oh, I already know all of that. I'm like, remember, you're here to learn. You don't know everything. But it's, you know, this childlike, I'm like, well, I already know that, because he just looks at something and gets it. And I'm like, how do you do that? It's not for me.
well, but that's why we're here to learn from each other, right?
He's like, oh yeah, if I don't need it, I don't, if it's not important for me, then I don't need it. I'm like, well, you're right. But I have made the similar experience. And know how they always say readers are leaders? I don't believe in that at all. Because I noticed the more I started to read, the more I cluttered up my channel. The download, the divine download from what I really wanted to know. I never trusted that the books that I was supposed to read, or the material, that it will come to me and that I feel really excited to read it. I had so many business books up here that, from, you know, Grant Cardone to Gary Vee and whoever, I took them all to Goodwill, because I knew that I only felt I needed to read them to be part of the entrepreneurship's world. and it just no longer aligned. I didn't want that. I didn't want what was expected from me. And my son is very much like that too. If it's not for me, then I don't want to learn it. If it's not for my particular journey, then I don't need it.
Well, you hit something really important, which I write about a lot, because I think part of the transition that we're going from is we created these right and wrong, good and bad, winners and losers, appropriate and inappropriate. And most of what we've created has been for the lowest common denominator. If you look at like the laws and stuff that we put together, and we were told to be good girls or good boys or whatever I'm about to say today, because it's all changing. But that for me, I don't live in that world anymore, because I don't want to fight for my life anymore. And the questions that I'm helping us look at is, are the beliefs that I'm putting in my mind, are they healthy or unhealthy for me? Are the people that I'm putting in my heart, are they healthy or unhealthy for me? And are the products and services that I'm consuming for my body, are they healthy or unhealthy for me? And no one can come out and tell me what is healthy or unhealthy for me. And lately when people want to argue, and I know they love to argue because they want to win, they have this desire, I listen to them. And then at the end of it, I say, you know what? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. They kind of look at me in disbelief because most of them know me.
Right.
And I said, you're right. You're right. Okay. Now that you're right, now what? What are we going to do about it? Because I want to be around and build a community around the people that are, there are no sides. And most of the systems we have in the world, almost all of them have been constructed on win-lose. And for somebody to win, somebody must lose. Yep. Even individually, right? Within yourself, you're judging yourself, and there's this win-lose. There's this.
It's even between people who are married, even within your children.
Absolutely.
Like we even do it with our children. I watch so many people who think that children are like, down here and we are the authority. We have to tell them. Obviously it's part of the programming as well. So I'm not perfect at it. And sometimes I'm just tired. I'm like, just do what I tell you to. But for the most part, I try to be very, very aware of how I communicate with my son, that I give him a choice, that I respect his opinion on things. Like he loves to go clothes shopping with me because he tells me what looks good and what doesn't. And even this morning I did my hair and he looks and I'm like, that looks really good, Mom. I'm like, thank you. So, and other times where I do my hair different, he's like, I don't like that. I'm like, no, you don't. Should I do differently? I'm like, yeah. And so I do, because I want to take him seriously. And I tell him, I'm like, no, I respect you as a full individual with an opinion that I respect. And so I do it, even if in that moment I'm like, but I like it. But then I'm like, well, I asked him for his opinion, so I better should just, at least acknowledge that. I don't know if we want to open the conversations for other people as well. Yeah, anyone who has some thoughts on this is more than welcome to say anything. You can unmute yourself. I think there are 9 people.
I think you can unmute yourself and turn on your videos.
Yeah.
If you would like, I'm going to put this in gallery view. And we've been having quite a conversation here in the chat. So
I did see that. Yes, I just didn't respond to all of it.
As well.
And Facebook too. So that's been burning up. But if anybody would like to jump in here, and it'd be really wonderful.
I like what you said, Noel. Hard to believe Isabel's an introvert. Well, it's actually interesting because I am right in the middle. And the more work I've done within myself, the more all those, personality tests, they always ended with 50-50 between intro and extro. I can be a total introvert and just, have a week all by myself, but I also can be present as an extrovert. And it's very interesting. But I grew up as an introvert, and then suddenly it just shifted when I turned 18.
Wonderful. Bob, like to jump in here?
Yeah, just to launch it off, love to hear from other people as well. One of the notes of the many notes I made was one of you made a comment about online community and how that's changed, particularly in this last year in what I'll call COVID time, and that you have more friends that you know through the virtual world than you do in your neighborhood or your zip code. And I really think it's changed also, because I think if we use the phrase online, are you a part of an online community? 2 years ago, it would have one connotation, and now it's been woven in, as Barbara Marx Hubbard would say, it's technology for good that has been used for good by most of us in that way of creating or amplifying. I mean, we had communities which were in the physical world, maybe a little bit on Facebook, like Co-Creators Convergence. Before that, now that relationship has I'll say it's changed. I feel that it's gotten better, it's gotten more expansive, and more people are involved. And even with World Unity Week, well, we're a part of Unity Earth, which was it isn't an organization because there's not a membership. It's a movement, a worldwide movement that was the initiating force of many visits to different places around the world. We were blessed to go to the last one in the Holy Land early last year. They created World Unity Week and has evolved World Unity Week in a very, very co-creative process.
Right, but they have over 500 different organizations involved.
And I feel very much that is a quote, I don't refer to it as an online community. I just refer to it as the Unity Earth community. Oh, by the way, 99.5% of it is taking place through technology, and it's the whole world. Wednesday night when we get together, there are people all over the world that are in that community and very connected, at times very intimate, at times very vulnerable in conversations and in sharing, and in, most significantly, in supporting one another. So this discussion this evening about building communities or redefining communities is wonderful. Thank you. Others that would like to share, or questions or thoughts?
You can just unmute yourself. If you can't unmute yourself, just raise your hand and I'll make sure I get you unmuted. Speaking of World Unity Week, while we're waiting for some of these very, very, very shy people to talk, I put in the chat there the crisis of loneliness among young Americans. That was a panel that was done during World Unity Week. And it was amazing panel. There's such an epidemic of loneliness, and that's related to our soaring rate of suicide in this country. And so this, it wasn't just a panel, they're actually started a whole new organization directed at the youth. And I just like to give that some airtime so that if you have some time, you're interested in this topic. It's actually now the past president of the Parliaments of World Religion is one who started this new, and it is intergenerational. Getting back to what Ayelet was saying about, so many different generations on this planet. I'd never heard that before.
Wow.
Found that interesting. But yeah, so I really, and you can be lonely in community. Just because you are in community doesn't, we have, our Co-Creators Convergence is, 2,500 people online. I know there are a lot of lonely people there, but we just try to just keep inviting, So anyway, I yield the field to anybody else who'd like to comment.
I was going to say, you said that you want to interview my son. I think if you were to, he wouldn't know what to talk about. For him, that's just life. That's just, normal. Like for him, we talk about something because it has become important to us, or like a mission or something. For him, it's just like, he will tell you like, yeah, today I played violin and piano and I went out with daddy and I played Pokemon. Like that's what he would tell you, because it's just become so natural for him to operate within that mindset that he doesn't feel there's something to be talked about. Because I tried to talk with him about it, and he's like, I don't know what you want to hear from me, because he's not aware
he's
that
just doing it. He's being it.
Yeah, he's just being it. He's not aware that this may not actually be something nobody else experiences.
Yeah, I get that, but
What a joy.
it
Yeah.
sounds like a amazing child. And but they said out of the mouth of babes, so much wisdom. And again, getting back to our friend Jesus, come to me as little children, without all the heaviness and drama and
And reading of history.
right, all the other stuff, programming we do to ourselves. Children
But
are so
even then, so many have experienced so much trauma, especially as children. I just went through an entire theta healing with someone I work with, and oh God, it was so deep. I mean, it was just incredible. And I said, I want to work on the issue of receiving. I just feel like I have trouble receiving. I give and give and give, but I can't seem to get ahead of myself. Like if it's financially or otherwise, it's always just not, like almost like a wall. I can't receive. And she looks at me, it's because you cannot receive yourself. Like I cannot receive me. And it went all the way back to my childhood. I was quite premature. I was almost 2 months premature. And already there's an exercise that we do. It's called the baby in the womb exercise, where we go into theta wave state, and then we envision going back into the mother's womb. And I suddenly heard those conversations that were coming from my mother about responsibility. She has to give up her career for children, for having a child. She had me at 20. So she's still, quite young as well. And then all my older siblings joined right away. She had 4 and 4 years, and then my youngest was a little bit of an accident. He was 9 years younger than me. But it all came together that I took this on from my mother, not being able to receive help, not being able to receive the understanding that she can have it all, that she can make it work, even if it may look differently than what she thought it would. But there was also, that mindset of this is how it's supposed to be, this is how it's supposed to go. And I took that on in the womb. And then I was 2 months premature. I was born and put in the incubator, and there was no connection there. So I was never able to receive the warmth right away. So that played all into receiving. And then it just continued. I mean, I wasn't even a month out of the hospital and my mom was already pregnant. Again with my brother. There was never this receiving. And obviously I love my mother, we're very close, but childhood for so many carries so much trauma that when we talk about that Jesus said that come like the children, I'm like, how, what? And so all of that needs to be healed to really understand what it means to be a child, to be accepted, to be fully loved. Most children, if you look at today, have been abandoned because parents have to work 2 jobs to survive, or there's other pressure, or they went down the wrong way. We were just in the process of adopting that fell through. But I'm also very proud of the birth mom that she is really working on getting her life back together and able to take care of her baby. She's now 4 months. And so I'm not mad at her that it didn't work out for us to have this child, but I'm actually really proud. But I also see how she was hurt when she was a child, and that just carried through, and never knowing what it actually means to be a child. And it takes courage to go back to that and heal that kind of trauma so that we can create communities with joy and fun and ease. I mean, my son, he just manifests like that. He gave me a lesson on manifestation the other day that was a little awkward because I should know. We went to the playground and he was just playing, and he's like, "Oh, Mom, I just found $20." And there was nobody there. So it was just us. So we couldn't even, he's like, "Oh no, that was just God putting it right there so I can find it." I'm like, "You find money everywhere you go. That is crazy."
I really want to meet him.
Yeah. And he's like, "Well, here's the thing, Mom, you can't think about it the whole time. You just have to put it out there and then not even like specifically look for it. You just have to expect it to be somewhere and you'll find it." I'm like,
Well, I think there should be a new, I think there should be a new book. This F the
Children
scarcity
know.
bullshit.
But it's just so, and I have to say, I am grateful that he chose us as his parents, that I get to practice with him what I am learning and giving him that freedom and seeing how he evolves through this, and more like guiding him in a more spiritual way, and what that does for him and how he interacts. And I think those will be the children who just understand community like no other. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what your problem is. Like, we're already doing this.
Well, I'm gonna pull Pamela in here because I know she does blueprints.
Oh yes. Oh,
Let's hear a little bit about
interesting work.
blueprints. You must have some reflections. Are you able to unmute yourself? Okay, let me.
That's fun.
Got it? Okay.
Okay, yes, hi. I am so excited to be here and to meet you and to hear about what you've been working on. And certainly, I think so many of us are doing parallel things. Back in 2004, I had a chance to meet Barbara, and she did a seminar for me. And when I shared with her my blueprint for the human spirit, she says, yes, we're map makers. And it was just really a very special time. But the blueprint for the human spirit evolved in harmony with my own spiritual growth. And not every day, but for 6 months, 3 or 4 days a week, I would be awakened in the middle of the night and information flowed in. So I was like tapped into this universal data bank, and all this beautiful revelations just occurred. And I would lay there for an hour and a half until I couldn't contain anymore. And I would get up and type it into my computer. And it started to grow from a simple mind, body, spirit triangle, because it came with sacred geometry, which I didn't know what it was at the time, but it just started to evolve into this beautiful matrix that I now have, that is, that I call the blueprint for the human spirit. And there's dimensions and fields of existence, and every aspect of it is all interconnected. And it is just had such an amazing impact on me and helped me to realize that I am, and that we are all connected, because there's a great sense of unity that's a part of this, that we are all co-creators, because creativity and creation is a part of it, that it is all love. I mean, there's just such beautiful themes, and it's all there. It was like I received this so that I could share, so that first I could learn, and then it became my passion and purpose to share with others. And now, at first it was just a real interesting intellectual exercise, because it was all these concepts and whatever. And at that time, that's where I was in my head. And then I had this amazing experience where in a meditation, I experienced 15 past lives, and there were 15 primary boxes in the matrix. And each one of those revealed to me how my life in this lifetime paralleled another lifetime, and revealed a core shift in consciousness that was relevant for me to become awakened and to live in harmony with truth, and to live consciously, compassionately, and authentically. So, I mean, I just working with Kathy, which I'm very grateful for, to help bring this forth through some books and classes and discussions and things like that. So thank you for the opportunity to share that. But I would, really look forward to learning more from you all about how, what I do is connected with what everybody else is doing, because it is a piece of the puzzle. And I'm very grateful to be a part of this.
Thank you, Pamela. And yes, Kathy's a go-to person for a lot of us. And Tex has his hand raised. I'd like him to go ahead and join the conversation. Tex.
Thank you, Noel. Well, first, out of the starting book, I'd like to say that Pamela should do a presentation soon. And that's
Great
that
idea.
seems evident. Anyway, I think that's been a great conversation between Isabel and Ayelet. And so stimulating, so inspiring. I mean, you're both very inspired also. And I mean, listening to you, I'll have to review this because there's been so much going on. And unfortunately, my computer let me down. At least Zoom froze on me. But whenever there's good things happening, we can expect this sort of little mishaps. Anyway, yeah, and I think, Isabel, at least by what your son is being, it shows that you're definitely a good tree because you seem to have produced a very good fruit there. And I believe that the future, when we're talking about a thrivable world or a better world, it will depend on having better adults. To have better adults, we need to have better children. And to have better children now, we as adults need to take stock where we are and look at the innate child in ourselves. Many of us need to do some healing of that child and also acknowledge the child and celebrate the child and live some of these childlike qualities, you know, like wonderment and at one with nature, curiosity and all that lot. And just being loving. Children are generally loving and trusting. So we need to get back to that. And I think Ayelet mentioned something about trust and all. So yeah, I definitely look forward to review tonight's conversation. It's been amazing. And I'll be looking up information about each of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
By
you,
the way, I
Tex.
appreciate how you say my name because that's how we say it. Like that, Isabel is how usually people would say it, but most just Americanize it.
Well, I'm from Quebec, so there's the French coming across.
Yes, and since it is a French name, yeah,
Oh.
you could say that over and over. It sounds good. It sounds really good. I love that.
Well, this has been a wonderful evening. I can't believe our time is really up.
Join us next week when our conversationalist will be Laura Conley. Subject, Go Walk Yourself, Walking and Talking for Wellness and Connection. See you then.